Imagine for a moment that you are standing in the middle of a street that has existed for 1,000 years. The stones beneath your feet have been smoothed by the footsteps of poets, soldiers, merchants, and dreamers. You've traveled thousands of miles to be here. You have your camera ready, your itinerary planned, and your heart set on that one perfect moment you saw on a screen back home. But as you look around, something feels off. The locals avoid your gaze. The shopkeepers seem weary. There is an invisible wall between you and the reality of this place. You are physically there, but you are not present. In our modern world, we have mastered the art of movement, but we have lost the art of travel. We have turned the globe into a giant supermarket of experiences, where we think that paying for a ticket gives us the right to own a piece of a culture. But culture is not a product, a city is not a stage, and a local resident is not an extra in your movie. Today, we are diving into a deep and sometimes uncomfortable conversation. Why is there a growing friction between those who visit and those who live? Why do we often feel like ugly tourists even when we have the best intentions? We are going to explore the philosophy of the mindful traveler. We are going to look at the history of how we lost our way, the psychology of why we behave differently in foreign lands, and finally, the practical, soulful rules that can turn you from an intruder into a welcome guest. This isn't just about travel tips, it's about reclaiming our humanity in a world that is becoming increasingly crowded and disconnected. To understand the crisis of modern travel, we must travel back in time. For most of human history, travel was an act of extreme courage and profound vulnerability. When a traveler left their village in the 14th century, they weren't just going on a trip, they were entering a state of transformation. In ancient Greece, they had a beautiful word for this, xenia. It was the sacred law of hospitality. It suggested that any stranger could be a god in disguise. Therefore, the host had a religious duty to provide food, shelter, and protection. But here is the part we often forget. The guest had a duty too. The guest had to be respectful, humble, and bring value, usually in the form of stories, news, or wisdom from distant lands. It was a fair exchange of souls. Fast forward to the era of the Grand Tour in the 17th and 18th centuries. Young people would spend years traveling across Europe. They didn't just see Rome. They studied its ruins, learned its language, and debated its politics. They stayed in one place for months. They had to earn their way into the local social circles. But then came the 20th century. The invention of the steam engine, then the commercial airplane, and finally the low-cost carrier. Suddenly, the sacred journey was democratized. This was a victory for humanity, yes, everyone could now see the world. But it came with a hidden cost. When travel becomes cheap and fast, we begin to treat it as disposable. We started collecting countries like stamps. We stopped caring about the xenia, that sacred exchange. We began to demand that the world look like our Instagram feeds. We demanded that the locals speak our language, serve our food, and smile for our cameras on cue. We replaced the explorer's heart with a consumer's mindset. And that mindset is the root of the friction we see in 2026. When we treat a destination like a product, the people who live there start to feel like they are part of the inventory, not the owners of their own home. But why does our behavior change the moment we step off a plane? Why do perfectly kind, respectful people sometimes act with such startling entitlement when they are abroad? To find the answer, we have to look into the dark corners of human psychology. Social scientists talk about a phenomenon known as the anonymity effect. Back home, you are anchored. You are a neighbor, a professional, a friend. You are held in place by 1,000 invisible threads of accountability. People know your name, they know your character. But when you are in a city where no one knows you, those threads are cut. You become a ghost, and for some, this feeling of being invisible is intoxicating. It creates a moral holiday where we feel we can bypass the local social contracts because we will never see these people again. There is also the stage set fallacy. Because we have spent so much money on our dream vacation, our brains subconsciously begin to view the destination as a movie set built specifically for us. We start to see the local residents not as people with dental appointments, tax bills, and grieving hearts, but as background actors. When a local is slow to serve us or looks tired, we don't think, maybe they are having a hard day. Instead, we think, they are ruining my experience. This is the peak of modern travel arrogance. The idea that a 1,000-year-old culture should perform for us because we paid for a hotel room. We have lost the ability to be witnesses and have instead become directors. But the most profound travel experiences don't happen when we are in control. They happen when we surrender to the reality of the place, even when that reality is messy, slow, or inconvenient. If we want to fix this, we must adopt a new code. Not a list of tips, but a set of sacred rules. Rule 1. The acoustic shadow. In the West, we often view public space as noisy space. But in many parts of the world, the street is an extension of the home. When you shout to your friend across a narrow alley in a historic district, you are effectively shouting in someone's bedroom. The practice. Observe the volume of the local. If the locals are speaking in hushed tones, lower your voice. Become part of the city's silence, not its noise. Rule 2. The sanctity of the face. We are the most photographed generation in history, but we have forgotten that a camera is a weapon of intrusion. In many cultures, taking a photo of someone without permission is seen as an act of theft, a theft of their privacy and dignity. The practice. Put the camera down for the first hour of every new place. Look with your eyes first. If you must take a photo of a person, ask with your eyes and a smile. If they say no, thank them. The memory in your head is always higher resolution than the one on your phone. Rule 3. The first 5 minutes. Most tourists walk into a shop and immediately ask, "Do you speak English?" or "How much is this?" This is a microaggression of convenience. The practice. Learn the first 5. Hello, please, thank you, I'm sorry, and goodbye. Even if your accent is terrible, the effort signals that you are a guest who acknowledges the host's house. It changes the energy of the room instantly. Rule 4. The 200-meter turn. Tourism tends to move in corridors. Thousands of people walk down the same 3 streets. This creates a high-pressure zone where locals become frustrated and prices become inflated. The practice. When you see a crowd, turn away from it. Walk 200 meters in any other direction. You will find the grandmother cooking real food, the quiet park where children play, and the authentic pulse of the city that isn't for sale. Rule 5. The fair exchange. We live in an era of budget travel hacks, but we must ask, who is paying the price for our hack? If you are haggling over 50 cents with a street artist who lives in a developing economy, you are not being a smart traveler, you are being a predator. The practice. Pay what it is worth to you, not the lowest price you can force them to accept. A few extra coins may be a coffee for you, but it's a day of school for their child. Rule 6. Respecting the taboo. Just because a place is public doesn't mean it is yours. A temple, a memorial, or even a specific set of stairs may hold a weight you don't understand. The practice. If you see a sign that says no photos or keep off, don't be the person who thinks the rules don't apply to them. Every time a tourist breaks a local taboo for a cool shot, they add another brick to the wall of resentment. Rule 7. The digital legacy. We have more power than we realize. A single angry review on a bad day can destroy a family business that has existed for generations. The practice. Be a merciful critic. If you had a bad experience, speak to the owner privately. Only use your public platform to lift up those who are doing things right. Use your influence to heal, not to hurt. So, where does this leave us? Is travel inherently bad? No. Travel is perhaps the only thing that can save us from our own narrow-mindedness. But we must change our why. We must stop traveling to find ourselves and start traveling to lose ourselves, to lose our ego, to lose our sense of being the center of the universe. When you stand before a mountain or an ancient cathedral, you should feel small. That smallness is a gift. It reminds us that we are part of a massive, beautiful, and fragile human story. The next time you pack your bags, I want you to make a promise. Not to the airline or to your followers, but to the world. Promise to be a guest. Promise to listen more than you speak. Promise to leave every place a little bit better than you found it, even if that just means leaving behind a genuine smile and a respectful silence. Because in the end, the world doesn't need more tourists. It needs more bridge builders. It needs people who are brave enough to cross the invisible wall and realize that on the other side, we are all just neighbors sharing the same small, beautiful home. Travel slow, travel deep, and as always, stay curious.